Alright, what is going on, guys? It is your boy TKD123 here, back again here on PlayStation Source, and we do have some great details to talk about here involving Ghost of Tsushima Iki Island DLC details. Okay, we got the length of this DLC, we got new enemies, we got abilities, and yes, I already know this may have been news that you probably guys are already well aware of, right? This happened last week. Unfortunately, I was out of town this weekend, I couldn't make this video, and I even tried, guys, I even tried to do it while on vacation, but that definitely did not happen. But this is coming to us from an interview with Press Start, which is, I believe, an Australian outlet, and this was, done with the senior staff writer over at Sucker Punch Productions, Patrick Downs, as well as the creative art director, Jason Connell, as well. So we got some pretty good things here. But before we get into it, guys, let me emphasize that liking the video definitely helps me out here, as I do have a side job, but I would love to do this more often, which will require me to make more money off of this. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. So if y'all like my content, if y'all ride with me, definitely like the video, say subscribe to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Down below links to our Twitter, Discord, all that great stuff, as well as links to the stuff that we'll be talking about here on this video. Speaking of, let's get right into it. So with this Iki Island DLC, they said they wanted to accomplish 3 things with this DLC. 1, explore the story and traumas of Jin Sakai during his road to becoming a samurai. Number 2, tell a story that deepens the understanding of the main game in a variety of different ways. And 3, being that the story of Iki Island itself is a direct opposite of Tsushima, with Tsushima being a stronghold for samurais, while Iki Island is a haven for pirates and smugglers, and they want to explore that kind of dichotomy of having 2 very different lands and very different reasons for these lands very close together. Now, like I said before in my last video, definitely go check out that video if you guys haven't, but the whole premise of Jin becoming a samurai is going to be a very big thing in this Iki Island DLC, and of course exploring the traumas that Jin Sakai went through during his road to becoming a samurai, which we only knew pretty much from the main game was when, of course, Jin's dad dies, and then Lord Shimura takes him under his wing, of course, being his uncle, and they go on to becoming a samurai from that whole standpoint and everything. But seeing a little bit more of Jin's trauma, whether it be the weight and the guilt that Jin carries for not doing enough in that instance that led to the death of his father, or maybe honestly the way that they cite here, Jin Sakai during his road to becoming a samurai, maybe there's a lot more to that than we are letting on here in this readout, right? Like maybe Jin always kind of questioned the samurai way, right? And maybe he always had doubts about the shinobi code and all that, and like if he should really be following this way. Maybe he always questioned it in the back of his mind, but never really brought up to the forefront until, of course, Ghost of Tsushima, the main story, as we see that unfold and everything. So I could see them kind of doing something there that could be really interesting. But also, I do want to point out, guys, that yes, we are exploring all these things. However, if we look at the new images that they put out for Iki Island, why is there a Sakai stronghold here on Iki Island? Why is there a Clan Sakai, type of outpost, if you will, a stronghold, if you will, whatever you want to call it? Why is that there on Iki Island? I have a lot of questions about that. I think that is an intentional thing. I think that is going to be a lot of really cool things that we will unravel here in the Iki Island DLC. But going on here, of course, speaking of the Iki Island DLC and how it kind of interplays with the main game, the events of Iki Island will make sense whether you jump in right after finishing Act 1 when Iki Island unlocks, or when you beat the game last year and coming back to it here just for the Iki Island DLC. Both cases are going to make sense. That was an intentional design choice by the developers, which I think is a very good thing to do overall. But of course, not the biggest surprise here. Early on in Iki Island, you do have a bit of linear parts that you have to play and get through before the game opens up, and you'll be able to freely travel between Iki Island and Tsushima itself. So think of kind of like how there was a big intro before the Act 1 began in the main game. That's what I'm imagining they have going on here, where the linear part is going to set up the whole kind of momentum into the Iki Island DLC, and you'll be able to go back to Tsushima in case you want to. Now, like most things in the world right now, there was an effect on the DLC caused by the panini, the plátano, the whatever you want to call it, whatever other P word. I almost said a very bad P word in Spanish. Let me not say that one specifically. specifically, but of course I'm talking about the pandemic. Now there was some issues here, not issues but just impacts that had on this DLC. They say here, quote, when we were looking at stories that we wanted to tell, there was this idea of Jin, like all of us, having to go through trauma, having to go through difficult times, and then emerging on the other side. Maybe not healed, but you can at least see the prospect for healing. And so I think that that is going to be obviously a big part in this DLC, as they do cite it here, where there is going to be this kind of, theme of rising from the ashes, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like coming out of a struggle, at least maybe not 100%, not what you were. And maybe that's not, the worst thing in the world, right? Like maybe you were never meant to heal fully. I don't know why I'm going into therapy talk right now, but that's kind of like what I think they are going for here, where it's like there will be this cool aspect of at least, Jin exploring his dark traumatic past. I do think that a lot of it is going to deal with his father, but also given that there is a Sakai stronghold here on Iki Island, maybe there is a past involving the pirates and the smugglers on Iki Islands. Like maybe there was something there that did turn out not that great, and that could also be a part of the trauma that Jin has from his past that he is going to overcome and rise against here. Not only dealing with the ego, but also his traumatic past as well. Like he'll be rising from that. I think it's super cool. We'll see how it all plays out in the full DLC. They do say that the DLC is covered with new enemies, which will call upon us to encounter them in different ways than other enemies in the main game. New skills and abilities they didn't want to spoil, but they did say that they leaned more into aspects from the main game, citing the mythic tales from the main game that gave us really cool abilities like the Heavenly Strike and Dance of Wrath, which that tells me that we'll likely see more cool stuff like that expanded upon. Like maybe they will be, a bunch of different mythic tales that will give us new cool flashy abilities. That's what they're talking about, that they leaned into, but we'll have to see when the full game comes out. They did not want to spoil it for us, which obviously makes a lot of sense here, but they did want to spoil that nature is expanding in this DLC. They'll be giving us access to around 3 more different animal types, at least the 3 that are on top of my head. We do have the deer, we have the kitty, we have the monkey, right? So maybe there are going to be other ones as well that will be different animal types that we'll be able to explore and see in the full main game. The big question here, guys, how long is this DLC? The length of the DLC is about the size of a traditional act in the main game and will take around 15 to 20 hours to complete. Specifically, they say Act 1 because we all know, well, maybe not all you guys know, but like in the main game, Act 3 is definitely the shortest act out of Acts 1 and 2, and they did cite that it's more closer to Act 1 than any other act. So it looks like that's going to be the main size of the DLC and everything, and they did say that it will take around 15 to 20 hours to complete fully. So that's like a full 100% playthrough. To me, that sounds great. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely going to do everything that there has to do in this DLC. So 15-20 hours sounds fantastic to me overall. What do you guys think down below? Do you like the size of this DLC? Do you hate it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Next up here, we already knew about the DualSense features, but they do go into a little bit more depth with being able to feel when someone hits you with your blade and even feel rain on the DualSense as well. I'm hoping it, definitely feels a little bit like Returnal, where there was rain effects on the DualSense on Returnal. So that's good to hear that there will be, a lot of different ways that we'll be able to feel a lot of different kinetic stuff in the DLC with the DualSense as well. So next up here, let's read about this whole thing. The Japanese lip sync whole debacle. They do address why it's not coming to PS4, which I'm gonna be honest, before I read this quote, I was a little bit on the fence of like, honestly, they should find a way to fix the Japanese stuff in the PS4 version of the main game, or at least the PS4 version of the director's cut at least. But here is their explanation as to why it's not coming to PS4. We very much explored it. We wanted that on the PS4 in the base game when we were charting towards finishing that one up, but due to our technical constraints, due to the way that we were making our cutscenes, and frankly due to logistical and time constraints, those things combined sort of didn't make that a reality for us, but we really wanted it. So when we had the opportunity to go make this director's cut, make the PS5 version available, we got to revisit this, and it was very exciting for us. I think the very first thing we had people working on was getting that that technology going because we knew it'd be a lot of work. Getting our cutscenes all to be real time so that we could utilize this tech for our audience that really wanted this. And we know they wanted it, so while we were maybe disappointed that we couldn't have it in the earlier base version, we're super happy that we're able to get that pipeline working and get it up and running on this PS5 version. So overall, you know, I was unaware that the cutscenes were kind of made in a very static way, that they weren't in engine really when they was running in base game on PS4, and now that they're able to run those real-time cutscenes, I know that's what they said earlier, but when they really explained it here in this quote, I think it did make a lot of sense, although I do think it is kind of shitty that, you know, the Japanese lip sync is just not synced on the base PS4 version, the first iteration of Ghost of Tsushima. So even though I do wish it was there for the PS4 users, it is what it is, guys. You know what I'm saying? I would just let them have this. It is what it is. And lastly here, they did put up these new images again for the overall Iki Island DLC. There is a Fort Sakai that has me questioning things about, is that involved in Jin's past and him becoming a samurai for some reason? Does it involve the pirates and smugglers as well? Why is there a Fort Sakai on an island that was meant to be for pirates and smugglers and all that? I have a lot of questions about that, but above all else, these images look beautiful. I can't wait to explore this DLC, but let me know down below, guys, what are your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What are your things that, you know, you wish that were here in this DLC? What do you wish, you know, to come of this DLC? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure also, while you are down there, hit up that description. You can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, and of course our Anchor link as well, where you can listen to our long form content in podcast format. Save Slot Podcast every single Sunday up there on podcast services around the world. All that great stuff. Definitely follow that. And yeah, thank you all for watching. And as always, if you enjoyed, like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as stay subscribed to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.